Hi everyone, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. Today on John's Briefs, again we're here in the conference room at C2 Tactical in Scottsdale with criminal defense attorney extraordinaire, Tim Forshee, an all-around fine human, firearms trainer, former judge pro tem, former prosecuting attorney, and Arizona Ranger Tim, as we like to say.
Ranger Tim, yeah.
And so a lot of experience that Tim has. And we had an interesting case here. And I had some people ask this in this case. Like, so these officers pulled up investigating some crime. They had some reasonable articulable suspicion. Crime is afoot. Why? Because they see a dude slumped over his
Passed
driver's
out
seat.
on his steering wheel, yeah.
That's indicative of drug use or drunkenness, and he's in control of the vehicle. So they start investigating. Well, come to find out, he tries to inadvertently run his buddy over while he's trying to get away from said cops, and they filled him in, and he took the parking lot temperature challenge. Not great. We don't love all that stuff. Right. But I had some people ask, well, why didn't they just take his keys and put his keys up on the hood of the car? And you know, I think that's an interesting question, and I wanted to ask the attorney about it. To win the fight after the fight, you need help. After a use of force, I trust Firearms Legal Protection to help me win the fight for the rest of my life. From their 24/7 attorney-answered hotline to coverage for the use of all legal tools, Firearms Legal Protection has you covered. Get a discount by signing up at the link below.
So the reason you guys are being detained is because when we drove up, your head was down, and typically when they see that someone in the car, someone's probably overdosed, someone's doing drugs, run the nod, okay? And then it seems like you guys don't have a lawful purpose of being here. So another reason you guys are being detained is because possibly loitering, trespassing, okay? That's it.
What did he say you had?
Just like foils and stuff.
You have foils and stuff?
It's all mine. You want to get him a ladder?
All right. Let me get him first. He's got paraphernalia on him. I got a straw over here. You cool stepping out? Hands behind your back, interlace your fingers. You're not under arrest or anything, okay? Okay? Can you drop that? Interlace your fingers. Stand up straight, dude. What are you doing?
I just thought I could get a workout with you.
Okay. You're not under arrest or anything. You understand that, right? Okay. There's just a bunch of you guys here, so I just want to make sure we do this safely, okay? Is it okay if I search you?
Yeah.
Okay. Face the car. Spread your feet. This is the foil that the paraphernalia that you were talking about?
Yeah.
What do you smoke out of that?
Honestly, everything.
Everything?
Yeah.
Like what? I'm assuming you use this with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so meth? What else?
It's all meth.
Do you have meth?
No.
Raise your arms. What's your last name? No probation or parole, right? All right. Were you guys all smoking together?
No, I'm not even getting high.
No. If I what?
Never mind.
I just can't hear you. I can't promise you anything, man. I can't. We'll deal with one thing at a time, okay? We'll talk right now. But I can't promise you anything, okay? Fair?
Yeah. Okay. You're not gonna put me in a car, right?
No. I'm just gonna put you over here. You cool with that?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out a place where I can put you guys.
Can I just leave you into the car? I'm not. He knows me. I don't run or anything.
Officer Lopez, do you trust that he will stay here? Yeah. Okay. Can you just take a seat for now? And once I get everyone out, we'll make adjustments, okay?
21, start for 95 male at Henninger and Team Western Court. For male team checking door handle. Grab as a male white, tall, and
Do you have anything illegal on you, man?
Black pants.
No? Is it okay if I check? Huh?
Yes.
Okay. Can you stand up? You're not under arrest or anything, okay? Oh, you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right, hands behind your back. Interlace your fingers. All right, let's back up a little bit so I have some more room. You cool with that? Okay. Can you face the car? Right here? Spread your feet. So no drugs, no needles, no nothing like that, right? I just don't want to get poked. I'm not saying you have anything. I just want to make sure. Sometimes people have surprised me, and they surprise themselves because they don't even remember. What's your name, ma'am? Okay. Where are you from, Miss?
I am from.
What brings you out here to the beautiful city of Costa Mesa?
I just ended up here, got stranded, we got left here, and
Okay.
I never left, so
When did you get stranded?
a couple weeks ago.
What? How?
Someone they just kind of left us behind.
563
Yeah.
586 to 69 West 17.
Hey! Stop the car! Stop! 44802, shot fired. Hey, get out! Get out!
Keep your hand on the steering wheel, David. You're trying my patience, dude.
563 for 586 to 69 West 17.
No, hey, no.
Stop the car! Stop!
44, 802 Alpha, shots fired.
802.
Stop the car!
So, Jim, I think it's kind of an interesting thing there because I don't know that I've ever seen an officer do that.
I don't know that I have either. I've seen them take firearms during
sure.
a stop and put those on the hood of the car. I've had that happen.
That's Terry v. Ohio.
That's a Terry stop, and that's my fear when a police officer is handling a firearm is, and I don't mean to offend any police officers out there, but if you're being honest, you're going to agree with me that a lot of cops have real inadequate firearms training, and so the only gun this guy has ever shot, or this gal has ever shot is a Glock 17 that they finally managed to pass the qual on their third attempt last November, and they haven't fired a round since. And I hand them my Wilson 1911. Cocked and locked, and I'm hoping and praying that they understand how to handle that firearm and how to unload it safely, because guess what, they probably don't. And that's when I've had a lot of problems come up that if you just left the gun in my holster, none of this would have happened. I wasn't planning on hurting anybody. So I've had them to do that. I've had them field strip guns, and I had one guy field stripped the gun, laid the parts on the hood, took the ammunition, threw it in the median of I-17 and said, if you want to get that one, I'm gone, feel free.
Oh, I'd fight him.
Nothing illegal about that, arguably, but I think there was some civil stuff going on there. But the point is, so I've seen stuff with guns a lot. I don't think I can recall a case where they actually took the keys and put it on the hood. And I would say there's one of two reasons for that. Probably the most likely is candidly they didn't think of it. It's not something that they were trained to do. It's not something that people thought of. I thought candidly it was a brilliant idea. If they had thought of it, then I think the reason they didn't do it was the difference between detain and arrest. Mm-hmm. If you detain someone, in theory, they're free to go. If you arrest them, they're not. And you have to have reasonable suspicion to detain. You have to have probable cause to arrest. It was early on. They would have had taken the keys early on. Maybe the guy was just tired. Maybe he was really frustrated. He was having an argument with his girlfriend. So I think they had reasonable suspicion for sure. They didn't have probable cause yet. And so they might have thought, hey, if I take his keys, now he's not free to leave. That rises to arrest, but I don't have probable cause yet. And that makes me think maybe that was, if they were properly trained and that was going through their brain, then that would be a reasonable reason for it. Candidly, I think the most likely reasons they probably didn't think of it.
It's an interesting thing because Tim brought up here just a second ago about so Pennsylvania v. Mims. This is a long settled case law that they can pull people out of.
In case we're not clear on this, he knows the case law far better than I do. So I'm not sure why. I should be interviewing him, for God's sakes.
I try to keep up on this stuff really well. So Pennsylvania v. Mims, officers can pull people out of the car, and anybody during a traffic stop. It's a legal traffic stop. They can pull everybody out of the car. That's long settled case law. Pennsylvania v. Mims. Terry v. Ohio, if the officer has reasonable articulable suspicion that crime is afoot and worried that somebody might be armed and might mean them harm, they can do a external frisk for weapons and then take possession of those weapons for the duration of the investigation.
For the officer's own safety.
For the officer's safety. So those are long settled case laws. So that's that. But a firearm is not keys. Mm-hmm. But I do think that when we start talking about seizing property, then the constitutional scrutiny on that's going to rise a little bit. Right. And I do think, I know, man, there's always somebody in the comments that's like, cops are just jackbooted thugs or, working for the state and trying to steal your property. Most cops I know, well, all cops that I know, they work pretty darn hard to operate within the framework of the Constitution.
And let's see if you call those jackbooted thugs when you need them, because I'll bet you will. So.
And so the Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable search and seizure. What's a seizure? Well, a seizure from a legal perspective is a taking, right? So when they turn the reds and blues on, they have seized me.
And they're taking your freedom. They're taking your ability to leave.
Right.
That's right.
So reds and blues are on. Hi, do you know why I pulled you over today? I'm Officer so-and-so. No, officer, I have no idea. I would never do anything against the law. I wouldn't be stupid enough to admit it if I did. Tell me, sir, why are we here this fine day? And okay, so we've been seized, but now once I start taking their property, now I gotta have reason. Now, once the officer decides if I needed to be arrested, well, I seized all the property incident to arrest, right? I have to, now that
I've got the car, control of the car, everything in the car during arrest, you have the right to search the vehicle at that point, so yeah.
Well, and at least in some sense, that is a custodian problem, and because once they took you into custody, they have to maintain your property and not have it just walk away at the road. Imagine if the cop's like, we arrested you and we left your car running on the roadside.
I've had them leave them when they were shorthanded and stuff. But yeah, in theory, there's going to be a police officer going to wait until the wrecker arrives to tow your car to the impound yard. Yeah.
But before I get to that place of search incident to arrest, if I'm seizing your property, hey, why don't you let me have that?
Right.
You'll see them a lot of times if they're doing that, they get somebody out of the car, they'll take it and stick it on the hood, right? They'll take it and put it in plain sight, because I think they make the argument there, I haven't seized it, I'm simply putting it somewhere that everybody can see it for safekeeping.
Right.
And I wonder if they could do that with the keys and say, hey, can I have the keys? I'm just going to set them right here on your, on your windshield.
And perhaps that happens commonly. I don't think I've handled a case, and typically the case that would come up in would be a DUI.
Yeah.
And I don't recall a case where they did that. So, but I think if we're not worried about the arrest versus detain and it's legal, I think it's a great idea.
There it is. Yeah. So I'm going to invite our police officers in the comments. Do you do this on a regular basis? And if you do, then tell us about your policy.
Or if you don't, why not?
And if you don't, I want to know why not. Yeah. I think it's an interesting question. When you talk to the attorney who does this kind of stuff, you go, I don't know that I've ever seen that happen.
And they may be laughing because they do it hundreds of times, but I have not been exposed to it. So
I watch a lot badge cams of people getting pulled over, and I don't know that I've ever seen it. And so I don't know if that's considered, well, that's a really high level of seizing.
You're certainly seizing the vehicle at that point.
Yeah.
You're limiting their ability to leave the scene, and that rises to an arrest. So that requires probable cause. And until I determine that the guy's got a meth pipe in his hand, I don't have probable cause yet. So.
Yeah, if you say, hey, turn the car off for me, all right, totally fine. I hear that all the time. And then, hey, I tell you what, I want to put your keys on the windshield for me real quick.
Right.
I want to put your keys on the windshield. Can you hand me those or just toss them around on the windshield for me there? Just so that we're all going to be here for a minute. Okay?
And if they say, no, I'm not going to do that, then you might have to accept that for now. But yeah, do you ask? Because if you ask and they do it, I think you're probably okay. If you're not, you don't have the cuffs out and your gun's not out of its holster, that's not force. In theory.
I certainly think an officer could ask, hey, for your safety in mind, would you do me a favor and just reach around and throw your keys up on the windshield for me there?
Because a cop can say, hey, for your safety in mind, would you mind terribly letting me just give a once over, kind of check your vehicle to make sure there's nothing in there that could hurt either one of us that you might not even be aware of? If the person consents, it's completely legal. So clearly, if they consent to give you their keys, it's completely legal. I have no problem with that. But the issue is, can you take the keys and put them on the hood? I'm not sure the answer to that. So yeah, if there's any officers that can educate us on that, I'd sure love to be educated about it.
So had it asked a bunch of times, thought I'd ask the attorney. We're curious.
Mr. Ignorant, sorry.
And let's talk about it in the comments, everybody. Hope you have a great day.